I was born in Australia, for starter. Born in Melbourne. Perth, sorry. 1933. So I came back here, I think, 35, 36. Reared in a pub down there in Rosbercon. The family business at him was a little pub and grocery shop. You know, we reared over the shop. But I went to the colours in 1948. I spent 3 years with Featherstone Hall. I rode a bit, but I rode a little bit. I tell you, I got very heavy. And weights that time up from flat from 6'7" to 9 stone. 6'7" to 9. I was an apprentice, and the only chance I had to get a ride that time was an apprentice if you were 6'7". They were the weights that time. Came back home and had a few hackney cars. They've come, they're taxis now, but they were hackney cars that time. And ran that for a bit. And then started playing with a few horses then. Got back into horses again. I bought this place around here in 1968. All the horses were always there. The first pony I ever bought, 12 pounds, 1945. I could tell you her name, Mary Ann. I could tell you her name. And he was driving that time under the traps, he was calling them, harness, gigs, going to the mass and going here and going there. But Mary Ann was one of these ones, she went if she liked and she didn't. But we struck up a partnership. And during the end of the war years, I used to ride at the water for the Saturday with a school bag on my back to get a few bottles of whiskey. I had Nanton Water, had a pub, and she Downs and the Bromheads. Now the Bromheads family now, they were distillers in Waterford. And I might get a couple of bottles of whiskey and ride her home on the bottom of my back, nearly every Saturday. But horses, well, there was donkeys and there were all kinds of things, but that's the way it was that time. We had nothing else. He was transport, he did the ploughing, he did the work, he cut the hay, he cut the corn. 3 horses and a binder. That was binder that time was, even before the binder, they used to cut it with the mowing machine. And a fella, what they called trapping it. When so much would come out, he'd get a thing, and I'd come along and bind it with the straw. But the horse, there were horses every place, in every farmer's that time, there had to be. You know, there wouldn't have been a dozen tractors in this parish in the 40s. You know, it was all horse orientated. But it was a different, he was the most important animal. He was tied up and he was fed and, you know, he was looked after. He was the big man in the house. But anyhow, that's the way it was. 1957. A neighbour of mine bred a few very good horses too. I can't think of their names either. I bought them only up the road there. But his daughter died that time, she's kind of tragically. And he went to a local undertaker. He thought he wasn't treated properly. And he says, well, why don't you do that, boy? So that was my end. I went up to Shaw's in Mullingar and I bought a horse, my first horse for £250. I was after selling a horse for £500 that time, which I thought I was a millionaire. And I bought a horse for £250. And that's where it started, the hand it started. The local pub that time, man, you know, Billy is not well. Next minute Billy is dead, and he came in. Oh, my father died in the early 90s, and my mother in the late 80s. You know, there was and then there was family connections, you know, and even a bit still traditional down here. The big thing now, even here still, more so than ever. You might see my funeral home is on the way up. Oh no, it was a small hotel that we've converted into a funeral home. When someone dies across the bridge, oh, we can't go over there to Kilkenny. I rode ponies in 1947. Ponies belonged to a man by the name of George Stacey, George Chapman's father-in-law, the present Chapman's father-in-law. One of them was Tommy, the other was Miss Moore. Bought one and went on to win in Dublin horse competitions after. Smartie, he was bred by John Glynn, a cousin of mine, and I broke him as a 3-year-old, brought him to Dublin as a 4-year-old. He walked on a nail in the veterinary paddock and had to be brought home as a 4-year-old. As a 5-year-old, he broke my 2 collarbones a week before the showing, and he didn't get to Dublin. Next year, I went to Dublin as a 6-year-old and won it. And Michael Hickey had a lot of mercy on him. Gary Richard, you know Michael. Michael had a choice of riding him or riding a horse of Tom Quigley's. And I said to him, Michael, I said, are you going to ride my horse? If the two win, which one are you going to ride in the championship? I'm going to ride Quigley's. I said, I ride my horse the whole way through then. And Michael was a gentleman, out and out, and I'd say that. And we went back the following year, and we stood up in front again, but there was a condition in Ward's Ridge that time. You couldn't win it 2 years with the same horse. Hadn't won. So I was put down reserve champ with Smartie. I'm telling you, John Grinnan bred him up just 5 miles up the road, a relation of my own. And bred an awful lot of nice horses. But that time, Tom Draper bought his brother before him, the year before that. That time, he gave him £550 for him, which was the talk of the countryside. You know. But he had lovely mares, always kept the best filly for the next brood mare. He would buy Signal Core out of an Irish wax mare, both from thoroughbreds. And the one before that was also a thoroughbred horse. His name won't come to me now. In other words, he was a thoroughbred horse on the outside page, you know. But he was a real big blood horse. You might see a photo of him there, you know. Big bold fella. He was very hot. He was a bit that way. But he had marvellous movement. Every bit of him worked. You know what I mean? There was no such thing as doing that and dragging his other end behind him. You know, I'm monarch of all I survey, head up, you know, and that was him. Looked like being a jumper, but his temperament left him down as a jumper.
I was 4. I do remember the horse vaguely. He was a big blood horse by Signal Core, who was a thoroughbred horse. My father would have described him as a thoroughbred horse not in the book. The man who judged the Supreme Hunter Champion that year was a race trainer from England, and his comments to my father when he got off him was, I'd win the bumper on that horse in Cheltenham. His gallop was so good.
And I remember another day, one day I said to him, he said, how can you sit on him galloping that speed? And Smartie was a horse, you just sat, you might as well be sitting where I am now. There was no movement, only this thing happened. But they were entirely different horses what we have now. You know what I mean? They go around judging, I go around with them a bit. There's no comparison. And I think, I won't say it on here, my opinion, but we went astray. First of all, we sold all our best fillies. You know, and the Germans start breeding off of them and then start sending their progeny back to us. You know. That's honestly what I think, that's my honest, but everyone wouldn't agree with me. I mean, there's people breeding nothing else now, only foreign horses. But whatever few horses around here, there's no foreign horse in the place. We also won the 3-year-old class that day with a brother of Smartie's in Dublin in '71. And would have more likely missed the championship, only we missed the class. The thing got too big for countrymen. Yeah, that's the fact. A lovely horse. He went to Switzerland. The man that owned the Albatross factory down here bought him off us. That's where he went. Oh, completely different. Utterly different. No comparison whatsoever. You know, an Irish draft horse that time he did the work, and the mother bred a foal from year to year, 2 thoroughbred horses nearly always, and that's the way they were bred that time. You know, they both had temperament and blood, but they were entirely different horses what they have now. I remember being in a class with 110 horses, a lightweight 4-year-old class. They had to be divided. The ring couldn't compete with it. I mean, there was no showing now compared to what it was then. There's no comparison, you know, none whatsoever. Bought most of them as 3-year-olds. Go to the local sales or go in the field. Bought them out of a field. You know, a farmer had a 3-year-old, and I bought them and broke them. We'd say £500 for a 3-year-old. If I got £2,000 after my year's work, I was made up, you know. And she'll tell you, there was a house for young lads here. Horses had to move on. They had to be commercial, you know. You know, and that was the way it was. I remember buying ponies for her and protect her. She had a pony called Annie Get Your Gun. She was bought in Gordon, last sales in Gordon, £500. And she never hit. She jumped in 30 competitions in her 4-year-old and never hit a fence. You know, that's the difference in times. But that time, now if you have to go to a sales, you have to have X-rays. We went to Borsbridge to buy what we call a chancy one, you know, or one not ready, you know, and that's why we were hoping on this thing saw something that worth the money. But you went to Dublin to get the bonus, you know, you're hoping you get a bonus. And no, Dublin was that time, but Dublin, you know, most fellas tell you, the family should more, you know, Maguire's up there, Gory. I often saw them fellas bring 23-year-olds up and come back with none, you know. And there were 3 brothers, and Matty, I can't think of the names now either, James and the third brother. And there'd be one of them in that corner, one of them in that corner. And if they saw what looked like a client coming, they were mad, but that was the way, they were to operate that way and make it pay, you know. And then we had fairs that years ago too, you might Tala Fair and, you know, places like that. That was all the old system. There were more horses sold in the old veterinary paddock in my days than there would be in Goresbridge and several other places together. That's why you went there to sell your horse as well as get a rose there. That was the important thing. I often brought 5 and 6 horses up there and came home with no horse. That was my intention going there, you know. But now it's not a horse show any longer. It's a trade fair. That's what I think about it. Maybe I'm wrong again. I mean, that time we slept in the tack boxes, maybe slept in some of them in the horses' stalls, and that was the way it was. And we went out and showed our horse, and we went into the bar, and we had a scoop, and all the rest of it. And in the early days, we travelled our horses by train. We weren't going with our big horse boxes. You'd see the station where you pass coming up there now. I remember loading my horses there, going to Goresbridge. And mine was a junction down North Wexford. And we could be there for 3 or 4 hours sitting in the box waiting for the train to come up from Rosslare to bring us up to Dublin. And there was a siding then in Ballsbridge. And we just walked across the road and then put our boxes in. But that time we went up of a Saturday and we weren't allowed out until Friday evening, the following evening, with our horses. I remember the man that bred that Smartie, and the two of us being in Rosslare for 4 hours one day, coming back from Dublin. And I remember a woman coming over with a sweet can of tea, not a mug of tea, but remember those sweet cans? And was she welcome? That's as true as I'm sitting here. Yeah. But that was, it was crack for Dublin. And it's the same, we were in digs. The woman, Mrs. Duff, across from Serpentine Avenue, just across from Ballbridge, an old little house, and that she used to look after us. And I remember 9 of us in a room, sleeping, standing up, sitting down, whatever you like. But the crack there was, that was our holiday for the year, as well as being the sales, you know. Entirely different, but sure, everything's different now, you know.
My earliest memory of Dublin, I would have gone to Dublin with my father as young as 7, 8, 9 years of age, as a tag-on, as a groom. We would have brought maybe 8, 10 horses up there, some of them my father's, some of them belonging to neighbours and friends. We would have travelled in convoy together in a group. Then as I grew older, I would start grooming those horses, walking the horses out, helping with them in the veterinary paddock, exercising the horses, and eventually I'd be riding the horses.
I suppose one point in his end was one of the tops, a Bailey King Croker. He wound up with James Kiernan. There were, Dinzeo had a good horse called Alec. There were different ones now, you know, but they were ones that nearly went the whole way. Warren Pint was a big blood horse, and I sold him to a man named John Roberts in England. He won all the different things with him. I bought him up Brian Hennessy, a veterinary surgeon here in town, and the man is still alive. He bred him. I used to nearly break a lot of their young horses and hunt their young horses. And that was great. Yeah. Mrs. McCameron Bunny, we used to call her a lot of mess. if you went out and jumped something, someone else wouldn't jump. It was Bula Glass. She was a great character. Yeah. I bought some from her, and they bred more and bought them. At that time, a good few of their horses were bought off of farmers where they were hunting on their land. You know, it was a way of saying thanks. There was a lot of that done, and even that time they used to buy their oats off the local farmers and things like that. You know, before all this thing got mad. You know, and they were then implied your son and my son. You know, but they were great that time. And I remember saying one of that in a big meet, the school would be closed for a few hours. The kids would come out, the man would put his hand in his pocket, throw out a fistful of half-crowns or 2 shilling pieces. You know, they were big days that time. But they were great people around for the farmers and the horse industry that time. Sold a lot of horses to Max Howley. But Max Howley, when you sold a horse, Max Howley, you heard no more about him. I had a drawer of Max Howley's books. Decent man out, looked at your horse, made up his mind they're going to buy him or not, did his own examination, and you were paid before he left the yard. But that was the story. No such thing as I had no interest in a book. And in the end of Max Howley's days, I met him sometime, and I said, Max, you're not coming, what's wrong? He says, I can buy these buggers at home. He says, half the money that you're looking for. You're only buying my rubbish. You know, they started importing them. The whole scene changed. I remember Max Howley one evening, I bought a little mare in Goresbridge. I bought her twice, actually. I bought her, and the man, someone told him she worth more. And I had to give it twice as much as I had to give her next time. But anyway, she was something special. I had her on Max and his partner that time, and Seamus Hughes, marrying something Hughes' father, a gentleman too. And they come in the yard and they said to me, he said, you bought something to Goresbridge the other day? I said, I did, yeah. Is it special? I think so, I said. And I had a fence up in a little field over there, like parallel. And I went over to adjust it. I had something that was far more advanced than her. And coming backwards, not to a parallel, she jumped the whole lot backwards and landed down beside me. Enough, Max says, that's all. Enough. And gave me a good bit of profit, and the mare was gone. But I never heard of it. But Jimmy Darmody, maybe you know the Darmodys, was working at the time, and Jimmy came home on holidays. He says, there was a queue, he says, waiting on that lorry when that little mare arrived in home. Well, that's the kind of man, Max knew who he was buying for and exactly what he wanted. But there was no sense going to Goresbridge or going to Tattersall's or going anyplace else. He came to your door. And as I said, the thing was over and done there and then. You know. But the whole scene has changed completely from my younger days. You know what I mean? You go to a sales now and you haven't a clue whether you're sold or not. You know, let you have X-rays wherever you have it. It's only as good as the man is reading an X-ray for a start. You know, and that's not saying they're doing nothing wrong. That's the whole system. But that's where it's gone. You know, I'd rather go back, and hunting then was another thing that sadly missed. Hunting in my younger days, you know, it was freedom. You just went out and you went where you went and you pointed your horse and you hunted. And if you had a hunter, then you had a hunter. But nowadays, joke. You get ready to go and you dress up and you trot up and down the roads. You know, that's not whose fault it is. No one's for progress, if you like, but that's the way it is. I remember hacking from here. I lived in where you turned off the river below. I had a pub there, that's where I was reared. And I often hiked from there to Kilkenny, which was 37 miles, to hunt and hike home. In my younger days. I used to hike as far as Mullavat, maybe where you know Mullavat is. And there was a great buddy of mine there, was great. He hunted the Mullavat harriers all his lifetime. And we'd meet there and we'd go on, ride on from there. And you know, and those horses pulled out maybe twice a week that time. You know, it was an entirely different scene. It was the same as the working horse. An animal that worked, it was trial. You know, now we have to, this new system we have, the mayors have to see, will they jump and they have to do this and they have to do that. That didn't happen at that time. They went to the nearest stallion, with the local stallion, particularly thoroughbred. And if it was otherwise, maybe an Irish draft. But that was as far as you went.
My father judged horses while I was a child. My earliest memory, I remember him going up to Castlewellan to judge hunters up there, himself and his good friend Jimmy Mack, and there were other men on the team that I can't remember. And I always remember he brought home a hairdryer, and we'd never had a hairdryer in our lives because we used to dry our hair sitting in front of the fire. But that was my earliest memory of Daddy judging. He always judged. He judged with his great friend Ted Kelly, who's dead now, God rest him. He would have gone all over the country with Ted. Then I started judging with my father. Enjoyed it so much because I was the ride judge, and in those days both of us rode. So we'd start at either ends of the ride and we'd both ride and then we'd both do confirmation. But I mean, what I learned judging horses with my father was unreal. I rode horses belonging to wonderful people like Michael Hickey and Gary Richard, and I mean, riding his horses was just a complete dreamboat. I remember riding a little small hunter of his one year in Adamstown, and obviously he was champion of show, but he was just amazing. But I mean, Ted Kelly, Michael Hickey, my father, it was just so easy to ride horses after men like those because they were true horsemen in the real sense of the word. But I went on judging them with my father, all ridden hunters. My own daughter started to grow up, passionate about horses and everything to do with horses, always was from the time she was a kid. You just couldn't keep her away from them. So 2 years ago I was asked to do the ridden hunters in Adamstown, and I mean, I'm still passionate, but I don't ride competitively as much as I used to do. So my answer to Patrice was, I'd love to do confirmation, but I'm really not into riding anymore. And she said, oh gosh, get me someone to ride. I said, I'll get you someone to ride.
She volunteered me, unknowns to myself, to do it. That I was young, like I might have only been 20. And then it just kind of started that year. I think I also done Garvin, and then every year it's just been doing a little bit more and a little bit more.
She adores what she's doing. She's passionate about it for all the right reasons. She adores every horse she rides. So yeah, it's gone now from my father to me and then into her, and she's not going to stop. She's going from strength to strength. She loves it.
It's very easy judged now with Mam and Pappy, to be fair, because we'd always like the same type of horse. We'd rarely have a disagreement on that, so it's a lot easier to judge with them maybe than someone you wouldn't know that would like a different type of horse. But no, I do enjoy it. You know, you have to have a thick skin, but apart from that, like, it doesn't bother me now at all, to be fair. It's nice to get to go out for the day, and it's lovely working with the two of them as well. So we might make the odd mistake and get in trouble with the boss, but we try not to do that too often.
Leah could get up on any horse, and they all go the same for her. She's nice and soft, smooth, but still the boss, if you like, in a quiet way. And she rode the same way. And that's what I always try to instill in them, every one of them, you know. We never went to pony tour. Leah, there's now a horse there we used to hunt. He's 25 years of age, he's out the side of the ditch there. Like a young lad now. And I used to hunt him when she'd be going to school. And Leah had a 12-2 pony that I bought for £200 in Rosbercon-based. And someone said to her, why do you go there? Wait, I don't know, she said, I shut my eyes and I followed my granddad. But the pony was as good as that. You know what I mean? That's the kind of animals we had. But that was hunting now. She was the lucky one the last few years. Last few years she was out hunting in Wexford. And Mary Jo will tell you, this little horse, he's still there, the same old horse. He liked to be in front, you know. And Wexford, now, the big wide banks, they got up and looked at him, but he didn't. He got up and did that. Yeah. But he always made sure he got to the far side of it, you know. But that was the type of horses they had then, and the type of animals. And the country made them. Hunting anyway was totally different that time, you know. So I mean, Wexford now is still, but sure, they do their best. But it's only a ride, if you like. They're marked out where we're going to go, this field, that field. They have to do it now between electric fences and everything else. We all know that. But at the time I'm from, going back the years, it's particularly up in Kilkenny, you jump from field to field. And 9 times you didn't leave a leg or nothing in the middle. Now Wexford wouldn't be as broad as a lot of strong walls, and a lot of, Kilkenny at least wouldn't be. But hunting was different. No, Mullavat at the time, McCallum to meet Mullavat, and there could be 100 horses there.
I remember he said to me, come down and I'll show you what I bought. And I looked over the stable door and said, what are you going to do with that? And he said, well, if you don't want it, it's fine. And I said, no, of course I do. But, I mean, Pixie hadn't even been born then. Leah hadn't even been born. But she went on. She started hunting that pony as an unschooled 6-year-old pony. She hunted her for 6 years with the Kilkenny hounds. I was hunting a big blood horse at the time. Anywhere the master and horses went, this little pink thing just bombed out past you. And the confidence she gave Pixie was absolutely phenomenal. After that, then I bought her a little 14-2 pony in Gore's Bridge that she called Majorette. She jumped her for a year or two and sold her on to England. I suppose Pixie grew up the same way I grew up. Neither of us were reared as competitors. We were reared as horse people, if that makes sense. We were all about the horse, not about the rosette. And she's the same, and she's doing it to this very day. It's about picking the raw material, seeing what you can do with it, and passing it on. That's our legacy.
God, there's so much from. I suppose just fooling around with the horses and ponies. They were always there. I can't remember a time when they weren't there, to put it to you that way. It was just like before school, after school, school holidays. I done nothing else, you know, kind of maybe to a fault that I never played any other sports, but it was just always ponies and horses the whole time. I suppose my earliest memory, I definitely remember like coming home from school and exercising ponies and helping. We'd often, the school is just down the road, and when we'd be on the way home, we'd meet Pappy with like a horse on the long ropes, driving them, and he'd hand them over to you, and you'd take them, you know, back up the road from school. So they were just always there. He's an amazing man. We're so great. We say it every day. We're so grateful, so lucky to still have him. He got the crack we had like as kids with him. We'd always, myself and my brother, we'd go down to Pappy and Gran's after school, and we'd stay there for the evening, like till Mam was home. I hunted, I'd say, when I was in school now, I probably hunted with him more than I went to school. He'd hunt whatever horse that was in, and I'd go off with the little pink pony, and we were hunting with the Kilkennys at that time, and we'd just go all over. I remember one day, I think we were up in Mullavat West, and he was on Bobby, the hunting horse. He's still here. And he fell in a drain on him, and I had the little pink pony, and I jumped out over him, and he was still in the drain, and went and caught the horse from him and brought him back. But there was another day then down in Kilmacow, and we were coming to this river. It was fairly heavy flowing. My little pony couldn't get across it, so he told me get off the pony, and he got off his horse, and the two horses went across, and he piggied me back across the river. Now the water must have been, it was over my boots, and I was on his back, like carrying me across the river. And I was still in primary school, but he would have been tipping 70 then, like, and just no bother. Away we go.
The year Leah did her Leaving Cert, there was no course that she wanted to do. It was a very good, difficult year for her and me as mother and daughter. It was the first time we nearly fought. She had nothing on her CAO form, and eventually I found this course in Writtle University outside London in England, veterinary physiotherapy, a 4-year integrated masters. We booked a Ryanair flight, I hired a car, over we went, and she fell completely in love with the place instantly, studied it, was passionate about it from day one, and she's just has never looked back. So
I graduated the year COVID hit, and I didn't want to go self-employed straight away. I just thought I wanted to get a bit of work under my belt before I set up by myself. And I thought I'd do that abroad. I probably wasn't really ready to move home then either, so I went. There was no jobs because it was lockdown, but I managed to get a job up in Inverness, up in the Highlands in Scotland. And we actually have friends up there who have Highland ponies, and that was really close to where I was working, so I was like, at least there's some description of a horse up there. It mightn't be the horses that we were used to, but it was grand. And I stayed there for a year, and then I actually went back and lectured at the university where I studied. And I was there for a year full time. To be fair, they were very flexible, and because the holidays with lecturing, I could come home and work from home. So I said I'd set up myself at home while I was over in England, and just kind of, you know, put the feelers out there and see what demand was going to be like. And it kind of took off from there. So I'm just based here at home full time. The way I've tried to work it now is that we have the few bits of horses in the yard, like breakers or, you know, a few horses we'd buy and sell, and then the physio as well. So I'd try to do a couple of hours here in the morning or either in the evening, and then go off and do the physio or vice versa. There's some days I don't get near the yard here at all, so that's where Mum and Pappy come in. They pick up the slack there. And then there's other days, obviously, if we were heading off schooling or something, I'd be more predominantly here. So it's working well so far anyway, touch wood. It's probably mostly racehorses, to be honest. Definitely within the national hunt season, there's a good chunk of racehorses and point-to-pointers in there. Maybe like 80% of my work would be with them. And then this time of year, it becomes more even. It's kind of more 50-50 now, with, like, especially on the lead up to Dublin, with the competition horses or like the big shows like Balmoral and all. You generally get a chunk of jumpers or ponies to do before those shows. But the racers they're always there still. So far throughout the season as well. So it's a good mix. I'd like to continue to build both aspects, so the yard here at home and the physio side of things. I think the balance is probably needed, because physio is fairly physical, you know, on yourself to be doing it. So if you were just at it all day, every day, I don't think longevity would last there. I have to be careful, I suppose, with the horses as well, that one bad fall could have me out of work for 8 weeks, and that's not going to work either. So again, I'm lucky in that regard. Mum and Pappy do so much work with the horses on the ropes that they know the horse inside out before I back it or get up on it, that, you know, touch wood, unless something kind of freak accident happens, the horses are fairly well ready for me to get on them and back them. I'd be riding the ride with her. Literally, I'd be feeling it. We'd be very close that way. We're very empathic towards one another and towards the horses. So no, I'm not. I wouldn't be nervous. I'm not frightened. I'm not that kind of a mother, because I've been too deeply involved in it myself. I know exactly what she's doing. I know, and I know that she rides very like I used to ride when I was younger. I've heard many people say that, and I suppose the apple never falls too far from the tree. No, but I'm with her stride for stride. And she'll come out then, and of course we talk it through, and, you know, you could have come around that corner better, or you didn't rind that line well, or, you know, you should have released the lower rein on that horse, he was resisting a bit. We'll talk all the talk. The very same as I used to do with my dad on our way home from shows. We'd ride every round again, and we'd do it the next day and the next day. I suppose like all athletes, like all sports people. It depends on what we're doing. That's the preferred way. But I mean, if Leah happens to be somewhere else, we might end up having to meet her there. Daddy and I might bring the horses and meet her there. Or sometimes if my father is doing other stuff, Pixie and I might go ahead. But invariably you'll see him standing at the opposite of the arena just as you're going in. You know, we always wind up in there together. Mentally, we're always in the same place, if that makes sense. Dublin's great. I suppose it's the centrepiece of our year, isn't it? It's where everybody goes, everybody comes together. The different shows throughout the year, you know, you'd see X and you'd see Y, but everybody's together at Dublin. And it's great to see the horses there, and the quality of horses, I suppose. And the pressure of getting horses there and getting them there, getting them right, especially in the job I'm in now as well. Like, I'm kind of more on that side of trying to keep the horses right. And you see everything that goes on behind the scenes to get them there, and just something so small, like a stone bruise or something so stupid, you know, can have everything you've worked for the last season just gone, like. So I suppose it's a massive relief to get there, and then when you get there, I suppose it's about trying to enjoy it and also trying to perform in that kind of pressure cooker atmosphere. And it's so fabulous to see somebody who's passionate about something that they believe in, especially when it's what I believe in too, and it's come from my father. It's fantastic. My father often says to me, will this industry survive? And I mean, I look at my daughter and say, of course it's going to survive. Or I look at Aubrey Chapman, who's the next generation. You know, it's wonderful to see young people coming on again as passionate about it as we were.